Today we will talk about lever and mover, how it's going to happen. So what are the things we have in the LCM events? After that I will show native chain reduction, and today it's going to be 2-hour class. So now it's 8 a.m., 8 to 10 I'll take. Let me close this. Okay, go to Setup. Go to Lifecycle Events. Okay, so from here these are the existing one. Joiner, lever, manage, transfer. These are the existing events. Native chain reduction I have created, so let me delete this. So if you want, you can delete any event. So now let me open any new cycle lifecycle event. So I can then name. So event name here. So the description why we are going to trigger this event you can mention. Event type is create means in the feed file in the database, wherever they are going to maintain the data. Okay, in the feed file you can consider the moment they are going to create new employee details. Then event will trigger. So the second type is manager transfer. So here the manager attribute will be there. Let me open any one identity. So let's say this is the manager attribute. If the manager attribute is going to change, if manager is going to transfer, or something in that scenario, you want to trigger any event, you can select this one. So the moment you are going to select this manager transfer, you have to mention previous manager filter. From this identity to this identity, you have to select. So something like, but I never seen this manager transfer in real-time environment. Okay, so based on attributes, you can select change if you are going to trigger any event. Let's say I'm going to create one lever event. Yeah, Vinay, you have any question? No, okay, thanks. Okay, so lever event based on some attribute if they are going to trigger. Let's say we have start date or end date, termination date the moment. They are going to update the end date if you want to trigger the event. So in that scenario, you can pick this attribute here, like what is the term date. We don't have term date over here because I didn't provide the value for start date. Randomly, I have given some value called SP, admin for termination date. I didn't give any value. That is the reason it's not populated. But you can pick any attribute or else you can select inactive also. Okay, we have inactive, the moment I'm going to mention. From false to true, so the attribute that event will get triggered. Let me open the feed file and I'll show. So this is the HR spreadsheet feed file. Here we have an attribute called inactive. Okay, here false and true will be there. False means user is active, inactive. True means user is inactive. Okay, so based on this value, if you want to trigger a lever event, you can achieve just. You have to select attribute, change inactive. You have to provide the value. The moment you are going to select attribute change, you have to provide the value, from which value to which value is going to change. Then the event should trigger. You have to select something like that. And apart from the attribute change, we have rule based on rule if you want to trigger any event. If you couldn't achieve via attribute change or create or manage transfer. In that scenario, specifically, if you want to trigger an event based on rule, you can select, and we have another called native change. If someone is making some changes in the target application in the end directory, if you want to trigger any event based on that, so you can select native change and alert. So, based on some alert, if you want to trigger any event in that scenario, you can select these. Okay, so far I never seen this manager transfer and alert in real-time scenario. Remaining things I have seen. So if you want to disable means inactive. If you want to disable this event, you can click on the disable business processes nothing. Workflow the moment this event is going to get triggered for that which workflow you are going to use. So, based on some customization, you have written some workflow right. You can pick the workflow from here. If it is a lever, even I can have created some workflow already. So, based on this workflow only, it's going to process something like you can define. Okay. So any questions from this? So because I clear how we can create the events, then we'll talk about lever event as well we can. I'll show the demo how it's going to be work. So already we have created a lever event. We didn't create its out-of-the-box one. It's already pre-written, so just open the event. So always, lever event will be triggered based on attribute change only. Okay, the attribute name may vary. The attribute will be inactive or termination date attribute, but basically, based on attribute change, only lever event will get always. So here the description they have given, disable. All opens when a user leaves the company. Okay, so I have an attribute call inactive from here. True to false. I'm going to update the value. Some value I'll update. Based on that, some lever event will get. Okay, so this event is active. This event will be applicable for all identities, and here I have selected a workflow name called lifecycle. Event lever the workflow name. Let me open the workflow in the back end. So lifecycle event lever. So this is out-of-the-box workflow here you can see. So no customization code will be there. So it won't remove any access in my local lab. If you have written something, it definitely will remove, so you can check. These are the XML tag. So these are the workflow detail and workflow names. Each and everything will be there. Clearly, this is going to be the start point. Yeah, so it's going to be built, even plan, based on something. So we didn't return any code over here, so it didn't work. Any access. Basically, if you have written something, it could have done that. So I'll show how we can trigger what it will happen. On this lever event. Lever disable attribute change inactive. Is attribute false to true. The previous value should be false and new value should true. Okay, let me pick these identities. Let's say the same 3, identity, when I from false to true. Now HR is updating this value for this identity. Let's check what will happen. Let me just save. Okay, then, what is J column Rakesh?